It's an old HD, which is high definition paint book that we had. It was Canvas Creations, and in that book they featured 6 ferns, and these were gorgeous ferns. I love this project. This was from last week, and I'll just show you real quick. So if you're interested, be sure you go back and watch that. This was fern number 1. So we did this fern, and then we did this one. This is the one using the filbert brush. So now there is another fern using the filbert brush, which was the same stroke, and it was this one, which I wasn't going to demonstrate. It was the same one that we did last week, except there were three different sizes on one canvas. But that's another option that was in the book. So today we're going to do, okay, and it was called Botanical Arrays. Okay. Today we're going to do this one that has like a chisel edge flick stroke. It's the same stroke that you make when you do the thistle in level 1 cert. And then this one using the flat brush and mostly daisy and comma strokes. And then, like I said, I'm going to finish out with another type of fern, and I'm going to demonstrate that with a flat brush as well as a dagger brush. I'm sorry, a chisel edge brush. I mentioned dagger. We don't sell them anymore, and I mean I searched these last couple days. I had found this in my stash of brushes. These make such gorgeous strokes. I see I'm a little fuzzy here. I'll see if I can't get more focus. There we go. So I unfortunately don't think I should demonstrate since we don't have it, but if you've been around a while like I did, you'll find this brush in your stash, I'm sure, and it makes really nice fern strokes. Okay, the colors I'm going to use, now I'll turn on the lights so you can see. I'm going to use citrus green, and this is multi-surface. Put a little bit on my palette. I'll use Thicket. Are y'all having a hard time finding sap green? I can't find it anymore. So I'm down to Thicket, and then daffodil yellow. Just a touch. I like on some of these things to have a little brightness to it, and daffodil yellow is the color I like on that. I'm not going to use white, but I am going to put a touch of floating medium. Okay, and I will start with the number 12 flat brush. You know, I said number 12. I want number 10. I hope I brought out 10s. I didn't. They're right behind me. Just a moment. I mean, 12s work. I just like 10s for the ferns. Okay. So I got a number 10, and I'm going to double load into citrus green and Thicket. Going to dip my corners of my brush into each puddle of paint, then right here in the middle go back and forth. Now, of course, if you have a double loader, these would be in the pie, and then you just move over and find another space to do your runway. So I'm going to go back and forth like this. First one I'm going to demonstrate is the flicking one. And I'll put it here so you can see. I'm going to add a little touch of floating medium. And when I say little touch, I mean little. I'm putting the chisel edge just in the puddle right there. But then I did come back and stroke back and forth. Okay. When I leave my, when my brush leaves the camera, I'm getting paint. I get paint after every couple strokes. Now, if you notice, this is big, and I'm not going to paint this big because once you get a hang of the strokes, and you're going to get that on this top part, so I'm not going to paint draw this whole fern out for you. just like the top third. But if you notice, these aren't necessarily side by side like our other ferns sometimes are. These have a staggered branch coming out as we go down the stem. So to do that, I'll make a pattern. And yes, I did not draw out my pattern. So I'm on the chisel edge and I'm drawing out my line. I thought I could do this one without pre-drawing, but if you can't, get chalk and make this line for you. Then you're going to make some little outshoot vines or stems. I'm leading with the light green, so I'm going to come and just make a little curve right there on the chisel edge. And then on this side, same. I'm going out the same width, but I'm going to come down a little longer. I don't want it to be touching like we did last week. These aren't touching. So I'll do one more stem and come down here. I'm going to come out a little longer though, or a little farther, not longer. And then this one I'll come out like this. So here's what we got. There's going to be our pattern. Now these, like I said, are the flicks. The same flicks you use when you make the thistle. So how that works, I'll angle it a little bit here for you. I have my brush on the chisel edge and I'm leading with the light green. You know what? I'm going to start this leading with the dark green. I want light green down first. So why, if I want light green down, if I want light green, do I put that as my second color? It's because that following color is going to be the dominant color on the flick here. See, I'm touching, because I'm leading with the dark green. I'm touching and I'm going to pull it just gently. I'm on the chisel edge, no pressure. But then as I get to my end of my stroke, I'm going to start flicking up and I end up just dragging the last bristles of that light green. It's a little shaky when you go real slow, and I'm going to hold my baby finger there and see if that helps. So I'm going to lay it down, not lay it down, I'm putting it on the chisel edge, and then I'm going to just quickly flick up. I'm touching, pulling, and flicking up. And as I flick, only those last hairs of the brush are touching. I was leading with green, and that's why I have the citrus green strokes. I'm going back, get more paint. When I go back and get more paint, I also come back and go like this on the runway. That gives me my nice chisel edge again. Okay, this time I'm going to lead with the citrus green. So I'm going to touch and then start pulling it on the paper, but then start lifting off on the edge where only the last bristles are on the paper. And I touch and then come out. Now see how I get that nice little thin point? It's because I do that little flick with the last hairs of the brush. And do you notice now too, they're darker than these. It's because this one I led with citrus green. And so the dark green was the following color. You know, I got to move some of these papers away. That's sort of a challenge there. Okay, so that's the stroke. I just call it like the chisel edge flick, you know, because we're basically, it's basically you want to like flick at the end. My brush is very loose in my hand. I touch and I let it just flick out. So we're going to start up here. Now I want light green on the bottom or as the first color. So I'm going to lead with my dark green. I'm going to paint this one little section first and then move down. So I'm touching right here. I'm going to be on the chisel edge of my brush, move it along a little bit and then flick up. So I'm moving, flicking, moving, flicking. I'm just moving, going down the vein, I guess, or the stem. I'm out of paint. So let me come back and get more. See how many I did? I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Too many. I think I could have got away with 5, but no more than that. So I'm touching, touching, flicking. And I'm going to just come down this little stem right here. I'm going to stop right there. Leave that blank. Now, if you noticed, what I did was I flicked out like this at angles. And, normally you're not going to do that. Like when you were doing it, if you were doing a stock flower, there's no way you could get away with that. You're thinking, why isn't she doing in the center? I'm going to be doing in the center, but with the dark green. So I'm going to now do some flicks leading with citrus, so the dark green is going to be showing. So now I'm going to flick with the dark green. Now, this is now where I'm going to add some in the center right here. So if this was my pattern that I've done so far, I'm going to make some strokes more straight, but from the center like that. And so now you can see that I sort of got a fullness going there, and you can see like it's round. There's a depth. There's that light green in the background and dark green on top. So let me do some more like that. I start at the top, right here, and touch flicking. I got a little blob of, if you get a blob of paint on yours, try to get rid of that, because these are supposed to be nice little skinny little, almost like pine needles in a sense, I think. So I'm touching like this and flicking, coming back, getting more paint and flicking out like this. Okay, now I'm going to go back and flick with the dark green. I'm very light. This is a light fern. They're not heavy. They're flicks. Okay. I'll come back and do the light green. So my dark green is on the outside. I'm flicking out. If this was like the center of the clock, I'd be on this side. I'm clicking out at 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock. I mean, from the center to 2 o'clock. And this side, it would be to like 10 o'clock. So I'm touching, flicking. Whoops, wrong side. Touch, flick. Now, if I added more pressure, I would get thicker ones. Let me show you that. Right now, I'm doing real thin ones, like touch flicking. But I could do more pressure and then flick, if that's what you would like to see. They still look nice. It's just that they're thicker. But for this one, I wanted just really thin little flicks. Just a little bit as they come down the stem. Now I'm going to reverse my brush and do with green. And I'm not doing a lot. These are just mostly to show little, whatever these are, little needles or little fern stems sticking out right here. So I don't do as many as I did on the light green. Okay. So I'll come and do this one. So I'm flicking. I'll show you what we could do if we think we need more more greenery right there. I think maybe I need some floating medium. Really not liking how these are flicking. I'm going to change brush. And if this could happen to you, look at my brush. It has a gob of paint, and then look at the chisel edge. Is it clear there enough you can see? That, if your brush looks like that, there is no way you're going to get a nice stroke. So I'm going to change brushes. Go double, if I'm having to, double loads from scratch. They'll only take me a second. I think this one looks like it'll be better. Okay, touch. Gosh. Gotta get a touch of floating. This paper has always done well for me. So I'm blaming it on the paper. I'm not going to blame it on user. Okay, they're a little fluffy, but we can change the illusion of them when we start adding the green. I'm switching my brush around, adding some dark green on the outside here. I am really struggling with this. There we go. Here's some more. I'm just going to have to press a little harder than what I want. But you all just, when you do, and I'm going to come up here and fix some of these. When you're doing this on your own, just experiment. If it's getting too hard to do those flicks because of your brush, then just go to the next step. You know, just adapt. That's about all we can do. Okay, now let's go back and do. And I'll show you that one. But let me finish this one. What happened to this? We'll finish this one, and then we'll see what we need to do on that one. So here we go. Do you see how this brush is working a little better? It's flowing better, and the strokes are thinner. I think that other brush was just, you know, too fluffy. And our brushes can get that way. And because I had picked a number 12 by mistake, I didn't have the time to like look at my brushes. Okay, so now I'm going to go into dark green. Just add some, not a lot, just add some more. And this is where I'm going to add some going up the center. It gives that roundness. I just thought of this. Sometimes, you know, when I paint, if it looks like the colors are blending too much for me, I may let the bottom layer, dry. This I don't want to. I don't want that bottom layer to dry. I want them to sort of have a blended. I want to be able to see green and dark green, light green and dark green, but I don't want to blend it to where it looks like one is on top of another. I want it to be like they were one. They grew together. Now for this in the middle, I'm just going to add some little stems. Just add a few little ones to fill it in, because I do want it full. I'm going to add a little one right here, just like they grew out from the front. Just gives that look. So okay, that's sort of that fern. This one looks probably a little different, but this was painted with HD, but thin little lines, and then darkness on the top, and that's what this was accomplished. It would look better if I did one little short one. I'll do that just because this is on camera. Go that, and I'm just painting a little thin one right here. Then I'm going to get more paint now with the green, dark green. Fill that in right there. Okay, there you go. So that's fern number 1. Okay, now we're going to do this one. This is all with our daisy strokes, sometimes a little comma stroke. Again, we don't need a pattern. I'm just going to make my main stem come down here. And I'm not going to have the branches or the stems meet each other onto the side. So I'm going to start at this end, come in, and curve it. I'm always curving though. I don't have any go straight out. Then I'll come down here a little bit, make another one. And then one more over here. That should do good. I am going to do the same thing I did for the flick one. I'm going to lead with the dark green so that my background is light green. And this one I'm touch pulling. This one I'm doing the daisy stroke. I touch, lean, pull. Touch, lean, pull. Touch, lean, pull. When I pull, I'm releasing pressure, and that's how I'm getting those thin little points. It's not that I'm so much stroking on those last little bristles like we did on the flick. Now when I reverse it and lead with the light green, touch, lean, pull, touch, lean, pull. See, I get darker daisy strokes. Now this one, I'm going to do the same way. I'm going to come onto the stem. It's going to look odd at the beginning, and I'm coming down the stem, touch, lean, pull, touch, lean, pull. Okay, now I'm going to get more green, dark green. I'm going to paint on top of these. Same, touch, lean, pull. This time, I'm painting in the middle. When I paint in the middle, I'm more straight. They're more up into the stem area. To demonstrate that again, my first strokes were like this. Well, I better do them right. Touch, lean, pull, like going down like this. But now my second group, I'm coming into it, and they're darker and they're more straight. And that gives that illusion of it being round. There's depth through it. Now they're all not going to be straight. I'm going to have some come out to the edge here, like that. So that's what I'm doing for right now. Then I'll come down and do the same thing with this one. Touch, lean, pull, come down. It's important to always go back and get more paint. This is overlapping, and that's totally okay. Then I'm going to come back, touch, lean, pull with the dark. Always come back. Okay. Let's do it with the light, leading with the dark green, so I have light green. I always start with my top one. And and another thing about these, they're all the same size. These aren't where, we start out little and we get bigger as we come down. No, they're all the same size. Okay, that was my first layer of light green. Now I'm coming back and adding some of the dark. The only difference is I'm not doing anything with my double loading. I just reversed the direction of my brush. Yeah, I'll do one more. Touch, lean, pull, come on down, getting more paint. This sort of reminds me of a pine bough, like for a Christmas tree or something. So when you're painting your Christmas designs, this is how I would do it, like this. Or when you're painting wreaths or little pine boughs by your candles. Okay, then I'll come down and do this side. Yeah, I hope everyone's having a good day. Oh my gosh. They sort of came up on me. I'm just coming down the stem. Okay. Now, just like the last one, I don't want space, so I'm going to come and then just make myself just a little skinny one, a little one there. It doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be um, as long as the other ones. It's just a little something that needs to be in there to fill in the fern. Now, also, don't think to yourself, oh, I should have drawn a pattern. Um, if I would have, I would have caught that. For this, it doesn't matter. This is one of those times it absolutely doesn't matter if you aren't equally spaced. In fact, you might not even want to be equally spaced. So I'm coming just again, daisy stroke, just come on down. Okay, so that was that. The typical ferns that we paint when you're learning, and this is the one I'm going to paint two ways, with the flat brush and the chisel edge brush. I'll stick with the 10. I don't know what happened to all my good 10s. I'll have to figure out that. I'm going to paint this with the 12. I just need a good brush. Okay. And I'm going to change my colors. I'm going to go into citrus green and daffodil yellow just for a change of pace. Yeah, I'm just double loading. Okay, this is the flat brush. This is number 12 flat. And this is how, especially if you don't want to get like a full fern, like all of these are big. These would go really pretty in, your big bouquets and all those glass vases y'all are painting out there. And when you're taking the design and, design and drawing cert, you got those big bouquets you're designing. These kind of ferns would go real good with that. But if you just want a little small, simple fern in just like a small vase, this is the kind of fern that you could use. I'm just going to paint my stem coming down. I just led with the yellow to have green so you can see it a little better. Coming back and getting more paint. And this is going to be painted with an angled one-stroke leaf. An angled one-stroke leaf. So if you were to put it to the clock, here's our 2 o'clock and 8 o'clock. And then here's our 3 o'clock. I put the light color on top of this on the guidelines. I'm starting on this line that's 2 and 8. Put on the chisel edge. I push. I make sure all those bristles are flaring out. There's my push. I start turning, and as I keep turning to the 3 o'clock line, I lift up. And that's how you make an angled one-stroke leaf. And then you can put the stem in right there. What I have found when I paint ferns, or sometimes like in level 1, the birdhouse and wildflower going up the vine. Now those are slider leaves, but they're very similar to the angled one-stroke leaf. Instead of 2 and 8, now this is the main way to paint these. But I am just saying, when I paint like a fern or something going up, climbing up, my guideline is, instead of 2 and 8, I use like 1 and 7. Whoops, 1 and 7. Maybe I can't do this with light green. So there's my 1 and 7. Here's my clock, center my clock. Instead of 3, I go out to 2. And let me show you, it looks exactly the same, but for me, I get a thinner, smoother little angled leaf. So I'm on the chisel edge. I push. I'm still pushing as hard as I did. I slide up the 2 o'clock line and I pick up. I know it's slight, but for me it makes a world of difference. That's the angled one stroke leaf. When I'm painting it like sideways, um, like on a big wreath, like when you paint a wreath and you're putting little leaves going around, I would paint it like this. But for some reason, when I'm painting like a fern or that vine that's growing up the level 1, this angle helps me make a like a thinner little stroke. Um, and that's, like I said, that's just me. um, and I'm thinking, if you're struggling with those kind of leaves, just that small little change in direction from 2 to 8 to 1 and 7, it could make a world of difference. So with that said, this is the one I'm going to paint on this fern. My first one is going to start at the top, and I'm using the flat number 12. My corner of my brush is going to be on the stem, so I'm going to push, turn, lift to a point. That's my first one. Now my second one is going to come down a little bit, and these are going to touch together, and you do want a little bit of space. So there would be like my 2 o'clock line right there. So I'm going to start here at my 1 and 7, but I am going to touch right there. That's going to be my 1 and 7, but I'm going up to 2 o'clock. So here's my push, my turn, and I slide up to 2 o'clock. Let me go get more paint. Do the same thing here, but now I'm going in the opposite direction. So my brush will be on 11 to 5, going up to 10. So I'm pushing, I'm turning, and I'm sliding up a little bit like that. I'll come back and just keep going. I'm just going to keep coming down the stem here. 1 and 7, going on to 2, going sliding straight up and coming to a point. Especially with these fern leaves, I'm always going to get more paint. Okay, and then this one, I always have to stop and think. 11 and 5, go up to 10. Push, turn, and then come up to the chisel. I'll do one more row here. Push, turn, come up to 2 o'clock there. This one is push, turn, come up to 10 o'clock. So there you got it. Okay, so that's that one. Let me go through the chisel edge now. This one's the small one, and it's a 3/8 inch. Now, this is a really good brush to make those straight lines, and I'll show you to make the ferns. And Donna had 2 paint studies or stroke studies on YouTube. So if you want to learn more about this brush, because on her YouTube teaching, she taught flowers and leaves with this brush. So I'm just going to demo on the fern, but there's a lot more you can do with this brush. Now for the chisel edge, this is the heel on this side, the low side, and the toe is on this side, the tall side. So that's the toe, and this is the heel. And it truly doesn't matter how you paint. It's just what look you're going for. When I say how you paint, I mean how you load, whether you put your toe in the dark or the light. And I'll paint both ways for you so you can see the difference. I'm going to paint on this one. The toe is in the dark and the yellow is on the heel. I am going to go on my palette the same way, back and forth, as if it was a flat brush. Can you see how I'm doing that? I'm just going back and forth. Get some more paint there. This part is just like if you were on a flat brush. Okay. So now when I make I'm going to make a fern. Here's my stem. When I was on the flat brush making the angled one stroke leaf, I had my brush at an angle where I was touching the stem right there. Same approach, except I'm going to touch with the toe. I'll do it down here so you see, and then I'll do the top in a minute. But there's my touch on the stem. I'm still going to be straight up and down. I'm touching, I'm pushing, and then I'm still sliding on the 2 o'clock line, and then I come up, 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 and I go to a point. Because the toe drags last, see what a nice shape you get. Okay, this is dark green and yellow. Dark green on the toe, yellow on the heel. So I'm touching right here. I'm touching, pushing, turning, and coming up to a point. I'll do it one more with these colors. Toe, touch, pull, come up to a point. Okay. I'm going to change colors for you. I do have another one. So this time I'm going to put the toe in the yellow and the heel in the dark green. I can still use the same runway. I just reverse the brush. Okay, so on this side I'll paint this way. Let me get some more yellow on there, a little better. Okay, so on this I'm going to paint on this side with yellow on the toe. So I'm at that angle, I push, turn, and lift to a point. Do you see the difference? I held the brush the exact same way. By having the toe in green, I had green on the bottom. Having the toe in yellow, I have that on the bottom. Paint it right here. But I'm holding the same brush, doing the same thing, going to 10 o'clock. Get some more paint. Touching right there and pulling and going to a point. So similar fern, but look at the different color. Look at how it looks different. I'll do the one on the top so it doesn't look odd. Okay, there you go. So this is, like I said, called the chisel. I'll just real briefly show you the dagger because, like I said, some of y'all might have it. Now this one, I went ahead, this was me again. I loaded it one side yellow, and I'm going to use light green on this time. Well, I'll use dark green, and then dark green on this side. I'll show you the difference here. Same concept though. The point is on the stem. We push, turn, and lift. It just has a, let me get more paint. It just has a more delicate look. Push, turn, and then come up to a point. Granted, this brush is smaller. This says 1/4 inch, but it has such a delicate looking stroke. I just fell in love with it. Even though I've had it forever, I never have used it for a while, for a long time. I'll make one more because that one doesn't look too hot. Like here, so we're on the toe here, and then we slide and we turn it and come up to a point.